Hello ladies and gentlemen, Sigval Green here and welcome to yet another video. In this one we're going to take a look at the Chaos artifacts and we're going to be ranking them from best to worst. We got 10 Chaos artifacts, so it's most likely going to end up being a top 10. Full disclosure, I have tested out every single artifact and was in possession of every single artifact, except for the Philosopher's Stone. But to be honest, they were not as high level, so I might be a bit wrong about something, and if I am, please do correct me down in the comments. And if you feel like this video was useful, make sure you hit that subscribe button, share it with your league mates, and yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so at number 10, we're going to have the Book of Souls. So the Book of Souls is going to give you increased duration on the buffs that you do apply on yourself, and an increased duration on the debuffs that are applied to the opponent. And first of all, it's not gonna be a good pick for a damage dealer. Like, your damage dealers will not care one bit about the debuffs they inflict on the opponent, durating more, or the buffs on them having a longer duration. What they will care about is dealing more damage, and that will be done in a far better and more efficient way having other artifacts. So putting this on a damage dealer is going to be totally useless. Now, there's only one support character that can actually benefit from this, and that will be Arkham Knight Batman, if you're using him as a combo builder for the League of Anarchy team with Harvey Harley Quinn, because you would put this on him and increase the duration of the stun so that in theory you would be able to sit more in combat with Harley. But there's a few problems with this. First of all, if you're not doing this in soul rates, it's totally useless, because you're going to have all blades on Harley, and that all blades is going to need to stack. So staying longer in combat is actually not going to be very beneficial for you. And even if you get maxed out artifacts on all the characters and you no longer need to use all blades, the problem is that this gives you the lowest bonuses in terms of the passive bonuses of the soul raid event, the attack and health. So still, even though this could in theory buff that team, you're most likely going to be better having a Chakra or a Trigon Power Staff on Arkham Knight Batman just for that additional attack, because what would you take if you were to make the decision? 2 more seconds on the stun, or would you take 20k more attack? I think 20k more attack is going to be far better. So this might have eventually some use at some point, because there's one soul raid that it's actually not gonna require full artifacts at max level because they don't split, and that is Dawn of Apocalypse. And in Dawn of Apocalypse, with a high level Firebox on Harley and Book of Souls on Arkham Knight Batman, you might have a slight benefit, but at the end of the day it's just going to be 2 more seconds on the stun, so I don't think it will count that much. As we get Dawn of Apocalypse again and people get to test this out, we might rank this up a few positions, maybe 1, maybe 2, but it's a shit artifact. I like to call it the Book of Shit, but yeah, this was the Book of Souls. Now let's move on to number 9. Coming in at number 9, we're going to have ourselves the Philosopher's Stone, or how I like to call it, the Shit Nugget. So this thing is going to have a 100% chance at level 10 to mitigate 30% of the damage inflicted by the specials that you are blocking, and it's going to heal you for 45% of the damage mitigated. This is a 100% not needed artifact. The only thing it does, it makes your tanks more tankier, but it kind of defeats the purpose, because first of all, it's a far worse Trigon Staff if you think about it, and the passive bonuses are lower than the Trigon Staff, so this is just a far worse version than the Trigon Staff that we're going to talk about later on. And on top of that, you're going to be rewarded if you play well. So if you're going to block the specials anyway, you're most likely not gonna need that damage reduction. And on top of that, if you're going to block the specials of the enemy, they're going to deal no damage, and you're not even going to heal for 100% of how much you blocked. So yeah, this is a very bad artifact in my opinion. I really don't see any fight or any place where you would need to make use of this, and even if you would, there are far better artifacts that do a far better job at giving you defensive bonuses, and as I said, the passive stats on it are not even that high. The only reason why this is above the Book of Souls is that it has higher passive stats that it gives you, and if you get it at a high level randomly, it's going to benefit you more than the Book of Souls. If you wanted to put the Book of Souls at a higher rank in order to speculate for how it will be used on League of Anarchy in Dawn of Apocalypse soul rates, then go ahead. I can't argue with that, and I don't mind that. Okay, at number 8 we got ourselves the Candle of Neuron. So this is going to give you more damage on all your specials, but the thing is your specials are going to be disabled, one of them. So when you're tagging, you're going to get one special at random disabled, and you're going to get more damage on the other two specials. And this thing has a lot of problems. First of all, when you tag in and out, you're going to want to use one special mainly on your characters. So if the wrong special gets disabled, then it's gonna suck ass. Now, the second problem with this thing is you could make the argument that you could use this on characters that don't need to tag in and out. But the problem is the characters that are going to rely on special damage are going to be Solar Banshee and Multiverse Armor Supergirl. Other than that, all the characters that are going to be in the top teams for raising soul rates are going to rely on basic attacks as well as damage on their abilities. So this buffs only one thing for them, and there are far better options. Now, getting to the two options where you'll only need to have more damage on specials, they are going to have a gameplay that requires you to tag in and out constantly, so you don't have the option of staying in combat and only using that special. And thirdly, the problem with this thing is the fact that how the damage on specials is calculated, because we know this from the artifact passive bonuses that we get, like the artifact rolls. So you get something that says 30% more damage on your special tree, you'd expect to deal 30% more damage on your special tree, but it's not calculated that way. It's going to be calculated out of the base amount, so instead of a whopping 150% additional damage that you'd get at level 10, you'll most likely get something like 30% more damage. So at the end of the day, it's really not a worthwhile artifact. Now, coming in at number 7, we're going to have the Chrono Forest. The Chrono Forest is going to give you a chance to resist power drain, and the chance to resist power drain is a shit thing, because we got so many artifacts that are going to make you immune to power drain. We got the Mega Rod in Dawn of Valkyrie that not only makes you immune to power drain, but at the same time is going to power steal from the enemy the amount that would be power drained from you. So this passive is worthless, because this thing has been done in the past with other artifacts and has been done far better. And in terms of resisting power drain, we got both the Mega Rod and the Modelo Power Source from Rise of Triton that are far better artifacts. Now, this also gives you some additional special attack damage, and again, as I stated, the special attack damage is not calculated like that in Injustice 2 Mobile, so it's going to be far less than it's specified over there, and the passive stats are not going to be particularly high. If you want to put the Candle of Neuron above that, I guess you can do this, but I put the Chrono Forest higher than the Candle of Neuron because of the fact that this will not disable any of your specials on tag-ins, so even if you get this randomly at high level, you can still benefit from it and use it to a decent extent, but it's not an artifact worthwhile keeping in the long run, or a good artifact at that. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Okay, so at number 6 we're going to have the Rings of Azure. So the Rings of Azure are going to reduce the incoming damage you receive from special attacks, and at the same time you're going to have 50% chance to gain 4 bars of power when successfully blocking a special attack. And yeah, this is pretty much something that you would put on a combo builder, so that when the combo builder is going to block something, you're going to get some power bars, so at the very least have a chance to do that. But the thing is, in terms of power generation, because this is the main thing of this artifact that it can do, you're going to be far better off putting a Sword of Salvation on your damage dealer so that he power steals the enemy and gives you more power that way if you want to do it that way. And for this to be worth using on a combo builder over the Sword of Salvation, this would actually need to have tremendous defensive effects, but reducing some of the damage incoming from special is not gonna be amazing, the power that you get is not gonna be guaranteed, and you get far fewer moments where you can get power because the enemy is not going to use specials that often. And it's not ideal when the enemy uses special. Ideally, you want him to use as little amount of special as possible in the fight, because this allows you more time to deal damage. So yeah, I can see how this can be used. You can make decent use of this on Reverse Flash, let's say, normal rates when paired up with Solar Banshee, but again, I'd rather have the gap close from the Firebox on that fight. There are some uses to this artifact if you're lacking higher tier artifacts or better versions of this, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be an average artifact. Okay, now let's move on to number 5. At number 5, we're going to have the Ace of Wincesters. And this is going to be the best of the worst in terms of dealing damage. So this is going to give you a chance for ranged attack to be armor piercing, which is okay. Like, keep in mind, there's some things that you wouldn't think are ranged attacks, but are calculated as ranged attacks. For example, the King's Special Tree. Pretty much anything that the enemy can jump over is considered a ranged attack. So armor piercing with that is okay. Ranged attacks are unblockable. That's a 100% shit effect, because first of all, just I got an idea about this. Just make sure the enemy doesn't block your special attacks. This thing with unblockable on ranged attacks is going to be something that rewards you for doing a mistake, which is a very bad thing. And second of all, usually the problem with the ranged attacks, if you're in melee range and the enemy blocks it, then you have no excuse, it's your fault. If you are going to use it from range, your main problem is not going to be the enemy blocking it, your main problem is going to be the enemy jumping over it, and this doesn't fix that. But the thing is, some additional damage against opponents below 50% health. 75% damage to be exact. So yeah, damage is something that you're looking for when it comes to damage dealing artifacts. When it says damage, you know you're going to get something good. When it says attack, it's going to be a very low amount when it's a percentage attack, but when it says damage, you be sure that's going to be the total amount of damage increase over there. The sad thing about this is that it's only against targets below 50%, so because of that we're going to have a far better damage dealing option as we go above in this tier. But if you got the Ace of Wincestors being your only damage dealing artifact, you can make use of it in some scenarios, but again, it's not going to be the best thing for anything. Coming in number 4, we're going to have the Chakra artifact. The Chakra artifact is the artifact that everybody is going to receive for completing the Sword event. And yeah, it's only number 4, sadly. So the very great thing about this is that it gives the max amount of passive bonuses for your whole team. That's great. But when it comes to what it actually does, it's not gonna be great. So when you drop below 40% health, you're going to enter in a possessed state for 20 seconds, and you're going to get a damage boost of 200%, plus 200% attack. It's attack, but it seems to be kind of calculated a little bit more than that, in the way that I don't think this only keeps in mind the base attack, though it might. Haven't gotten to test this a lot. But the problem with this is that it kind of encourages bad gameplay where you get below 40%, because usually, if you're not using all blades, your damage there doesn't usually get below that certain threshold, and it only heals on special attacks from the damage deal. The big upside is that it can be triggered indefinitely, but so far there's simply far better options for dealing damage and surviving. This kind of tries to have the best of both worlds. Tries to give you some damage, tries to give you some survivability. At the end of the day, it fails to do each one of them good enough. But yeah, it has the highest amount of passive stats, so if you get it, I mean, all of you are going to get it, do upgrade it, because even if you're not going to use this on your main damage dealer or combo builder, it's going to sit on a third character in there, just giving you those juicy passive stats. And in lack of anything else, it can be an okay artifact, but that's about it. So yeah, let's get to number 3. Coming in at number 3, we're going to have ourselves the Sword of Sin. This is an artifact that actually impressed me a bit. When I saw this, I didn't think it would be that amazing, but it's a pretty damn good artifact actually. I would have wanted to kind of put it at number 2, but I know a lot of people wouldn't have agreed with me, but I'll get into that. So yeah, this is at number 3 because this is going to inflict some burning effect on your special for 18 seconds against the enemy. Burning effect is great. Burning effect is going to half the defense of the enemy, and being able to have this on any character that you want is an amazing thing to have. Second of all, it's going to power drain the enemy for every second that he is burning. So not only that you're going to reduce his defense, but you're pretty much going to cut off all his power generation. And this, I have found it useful to put this on Raven when using her as a support character. This can be amazing to be put on Ace Green Arrow in phase 4, and this pretty much can allow any character or any support character to be able to play in phase 4 and facilitate that fight. So yeah, it simply is very, very good at what it does. It's going to power drain the crap out of the enemy, and it's going to reduce their defense through burning effect. And the thing that I really enjoyed about this artifact is that it works just fine from level 1. I got the level 1 artifacts of Sword of Sin, and in level 1, if you do art taggings properly, the burning is not gonna expire and you'll get to refresh it before it expires, and the power drain is gonna be solid. Simply relying on this, you're going to be able to fight phase 4 with no problems. You might struggle in the last minute, you might die in the last minute, but it just at level 1. At level 10 is going to obviously do far better, so yeah. Sword of Sin is actually a pretty damn good artifact in my opinion. Now, let's move on to number 2. Now, moving on to number 2, this is going to be the Triton Power Staff. And look, first of all, the reason why I wanted to give this number 3 and the Sword of Sin number 2, even though a lot of people wouldn't have agreed with me, is the fact that it's a tank artifact. It's an artifact that makes you tanky. Don't get me wrong, in terms of pure survivability, this is going to be by far the best artifact in the game. There's no artifact in the game currently that's gonna help you survive the fight and take as much damage as this is going to do. I had this at level 1, and in the video where I reviewed this artifact in particular, if you have seen it, I have entered into the arena, in an arena fight, I have put this on a character, I have put my phone on the spacebar of the PC, which is the block on my emulator, and I went away to take a shit. And when I came back, I actually won the fight without doing anything. Because this thing is going to make you gain a shield when blocking an ability, equal to 200% of the wearer's max health. And it's max health, not current health, so it's going to be always a huge amount. Like, if you don't have a 30k health character, it's going to give you 60k worth of shield for 15 seconds. And the shield is going to get weaker over time, transforming 5% of its capacity into wearer's health each second. So it's going to constantly heal you. And it's going to heal you by a lot. And on top of all of that, it's going to give you a shield that reflects back the damage to the opponent. So yeah, this is the best defensive artifact in the game. And it has the highest passive bonuses in the game. Why I do have a little bit of a problem with it, and why I was reluctant to put it at number 2, even though it deserves number 2, is not the fault of the artifact. The artifact is amazing. It's kind of the fault of the game and how the game works. Because currently in Just 2 Mobile, there's literally no game mod where you have to be tanky. Arena and Champions Arena, it'll be fine. Raids and Soul Raids, it'll be fine. If we had something like a survival mode, then I'm not talking about 3 crappy fights in Champions Arena, I'm talking about having to survive like 10 fights with the same team without regenerating your health, like it's in Mortal Kombat, in the mode that they introduced recently, then yes, this would have been one of the best artifacts in the game, but simply we don't have game modes in the game that are going to be demanding of you to be tanky. So yeah, this is at number 2. Now, moving on to number 1. Coming in at number 1, we're going to have the Sword of Salvation, which might or might have not been nerfed with a recent update a bit, which sucks, by the way, but it's still a very solid artifact, even if it was. If it was, please undo it. So, this is going to give you a 60% chance to power steal 3 power bars on a successful swipe attack. And this thing scales with fast attack hits. So, if you got, let's say, a king, and he triggers a fast attack, hitting the enemy 2 times, then you're going to have a 60% chance to steal 3 power bars twice. If you have a Just League Flash in there, and your king is going to have 3 fast attack hits, then it's going to trigger 3 times. And this is not only going to keep the enemy at 0 power for the almost entirety of the fight, but at the same time is going to pretty much allow you to spam specials. When you use this on king on phase 2, you're going to simply spam special trees towards the end of the fight. You're simply going to do a special tree after every single combo. And the only reason why you are not going to be able to do that sooner than 1 minute is because Brainiac generates power too slow for you to be able to steal that much power. And the second thing, this making it the best artifact for damage dealing, at the very least for the Chaos Raids, is going to be the fact that it's going to give you additional damage for each of the opponent's absent power bars, which is an amazing bonus. I don't think this really stacks properly in normal raids. Like, I've literally gotten worse results in terms of damage dealing with a level 3 Sword of Salvation than with a level 10 Claws of Horus when fighting Horrific Scarecrow. So I don't think it stacks properly in normal raids, but in soul raids it works amazing. So yeah, the best damage dealing artifact for the advent of Chaos Soul Raids, and the best Artifact for draining power. Again, this is going to be even better than the Sword of Sin at fighting phase 4 and making any character able to fight phase 4 in league rates. So yeah, with that being said, this was it for this thing. I mean, to be honest with you, most of the artifacts over here are shit. Like, they seem to be getting more and more crappier and having more and more filler artifacts by the updates, because with Dawn of Apocalypse, all the artifacts were useful in one way or another, and all of them were good in one way or another. Now we get a lot of filler artifacts, a lot of recycled versions of previous artifacts that actually do less, and we got a lot more artifacts that are going to give you the lowest amount of passive bonuses. But with that being said, this was it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Dislike it if you dislike it. Maybe hit that bell button, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye!